My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 52 years old. And on September 12th, 2025, 2 days after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I died. I'm a contractor. For 30 years, I've built things: decks, additions, whole houses. I know the smell of sawdust like I know my own name. I live a pretty simple life in a small town in Idaho with my wife, Jenna. Our kids, Lucas and Chloe, are grown and out of the house now, trying to make their own way in a world that feels like it's coming apart at the seams. For 2 days, our television had been a window into hell. We couldn't look away. Every channel was showing the same horrible footage over and over. The rally at that university in Utah, the pop of the rifle, the chaos, the blood. Then came the endless arguing. Pundits screaming at each other, blaming the left, blaming the right. The president calling for a crackdown. The anger on social media was like a wildfire. It felt like the whole country was holding its breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. That night, Jenna and I were just sitting on the couch, watching the news. Neither of us was saying much. What was there to say? I just felt this heavy, sick feeling in the pit of my stomach. I was looking at the faces on the screen, the reporters, the politicians, the protesters, and I saw so much hate. It was a raw, naked hatred I'd never seen before in my life. It was a disease. I remember turning to Jenna and saying, "This isn't going to end well. This country is tearing itself apart." She just nodded, her eyes filled with tears. And right then, I felt it. A sharp, crushing pain in my chest. It wasn't like a muscle pull. It was like the weight of all that hate, all that division I was watching on the screen, had become a physical thing. Like it had reached out of the TV and squeezed my heart in its fist. I grabbed my chest. I couldn't get a breath. I tried to speak my wife's name, but no sound came out. The room started to spin. The angry faces on the TV blurred into streaks of color. The last thing I heard was Jenna screaming my name. The last thing I felt was the rough fabric of the armchair on my cheek as I fell. Then, nothing. Just silence. The pain was gone, instantly. 1 second, my chest was being crushed. The next, there was only a deep, peaceful quiet I had never known before. I felt light. I opened my eyes, and what I saw didn't make any sense. I was floating near the ceiling of my own living room. I could see the worn-out floral pattern on the armchair, the dust on top of the ceiling fan blades, and I could see myself slumped on the floor. My face was pale. My eyes were closed. Jenna was kneeling over me, sobbing, her phone pressed to her ear, as she screamed at a 911 operator. It was like watching a movie. I saw it all, but I couldn't feel her panic. I couldn't hear her cries. It was all silent. I wasn't scared. That's the strangest part. I should have been terrified, but I felt okay. More than okay. I felt a sense of relief. The worries about the bills, the arguments on the TV, the ache in my lower back from a lifetime of lifting lumber, it was all gone. I was just me. The real me, without the weight of the world on my shoulders. Then I felt a gentle pull. It wasn't scary. It was like a slow, steady tide drawing me upward, away from the room, away from my body. The scene below began to fade. Jenna's frantic movements and the flashing lights of the ambulance that was just arriving, growing dimmer and dimmer until they were just little pinpricks of light. The world I knew just sort of dissolved, like a watercolor painting in the rain. I was in a space that wasn't a space. There was no up or down, no walls, no floor. It was just an endless, soft darkness. But it wasn't an empty darkness. It was full of something. A presence, a feeling, and there was a sound. Or maybe it was a feeling too. A low, beautiful hum, like a single, perfect note from a cello that went on forever. It vibrated right through me, and every part of my spirit felt like it was finally home. I waited. I didn't know what I was waiting for, but I knew I wasn't alone. Then, the hum grew stronger, and out of the gentle darkness, a form began to take shape. It wasn't a man walking out of the shadows. It was more like the space itself wove together to create him. He was made of a light that I have no words for. It wasn't bright like the sun that hurts your eyes. It was a soft, living light, like a billion microscopic stars, all breathing in unison. The light had texture and depth. It moved and shimmered, and inside it was the shape of a man. I knew, with every part of my being, that I was looking at Jesus. He didn't have a halo or a white robe. He was just pure presence. The air around him felt like stepping into cool, clean water on a hot day. It soothed every part of me that had ever been hurt or afraid. He moved closer, and the hum I felt became a beautiful chord. It was a sound that held all the love a heart could ever imagine. He looked at me, and when his eyes met mine, my entire life was laid bare, but not like a judge reading a list of my sins. It was different. It was like my life was a song I'd been trying to sing my whole life. but I kept getting the notes wrong, messing up the timing. And when he looked at me, he heard the song. He heard the melody I was meant to be. He heard all my mistakes, all my fears, all my secret shames, and he saw them as just notes in this long, complicated song. And he didn't just hear it. He loved it. He loved my song. For the first time in my life, I felt completely known, not judged, just known and loved. Tears started to stream down my face, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of pure, overwhelming release. His voice wasn't something I heard with my ears. It was a thought that appeared in my mind, but it was warmer and more real than any spoken word. It felt like truth itself. Ethan, it is good you are here. I couldn't speak. I just stood there in his presence, soaking in a peace that passes all understanding. My mind was racing with 1,000 questions, but one kept coming to the front. The image from the TV, the assassination, the anger, the division. I thought of my country, of America. Lord, I managed to think, my own thought voice trembling. What is happening to us? Why is everyone so full of hate? He didn't answer with words. Instead, the space around us changed. He showed me something. I was standing on a high place, looking down at a vast, beautiful land that I knew was America. It wasn't a map, with states and cities. It was the land itself, the mountains, the plains, the forests. But flowing through the land were two enormous rivers. One river was dark and ugly. It was filled with thick, black mud and sharp, jagged rocks. The water was churning and violent. I saw people, millions of people, gathered along its banks. They were pushing and shoving, desperate to drink from it. And when they drank the muddy water, their faces twisted with anger and suspicion. They started building walls between each other out of the river mud. They shouted at their neighbors across the walls. They looked sick. They looked thirsty, even as they drank and drank. Jesus' voice was gentle in my mind. This is the river of pride. It flows from the belief that you are better than your brother, that your side is the only side. It promises power, but it only delivers poison. It makes a man's heart of stone. I looked at the people and my heart broke. They were all so thirsty. I could feel their thirst. They thought this dirty water was all there was. Then he turned my gaze. On the other side of the land was the second river. This one was beautiful. The water was crystal clear, and it sparkled as if the light was coming from within it. It flowed gently and steadily from a high, majestic mountain that seemed to be the source of all the light in this place. There were people here too, but not as many. They weren't fighting. They were kneeling at the water's edge, cupping the clear water in their hands. When they drank, their faces were filled with peace. They helped each other. They washed each other's feet. They were singing, and their songs were beautiful. This, the voice said, filling me with warmth, is the river of life. It flows from the mountain of my Father. It is the water of humility, of forgiveness, of love. To drink from it, a man must kneel. He must admit he is thirsty. It quenches a thirst you did not even know you had. I saw the two rivers, and I understood. The problem wasn't the government. It wasn't the economy. It wasn't the people on the other side of the political aisle. The problem was our hearts. We were drinking from the wrong river. Then the vision changed. He showed me a huge, magnificent house. It was strong and beautiful. I knew it also represented America, but he didn't show me the outside. He took me down to the foundation. The cornerstone was solid, and I knew it was meant to be him, but spreading out from it were other foundation stones with words carved into them: family, faith, community, truth. And I saw tiny hairline cracks forming in those stones. They were small. You wouldn't notice them if you weren't looking. But from these cracks, a dark, oily smoke was seeping up. It was thin, almost invisible. As the smoke rose, I could hear whispers in it. The whispers were quiet, but they were deadly. They said things like, "You are on your own. That person is your enemy. They want to destroy you. Don't trust your neighbor. Your feelings are the only truth that matters. You are owed something." I watched as the smoke seeped into the walls of the great house. I saw families at dinner tables, staring at screens instead of each other, the smoke swirling between them. I saw churches arguing over things that didn't matter, while the smoke thickened in the pews. I saw communities where no one knew their neighbor's name, the whispers keeping them inside their own homes. Jesus spoke again, and his voice was filled with a deep, loving sorrow. The enemy does not need a battering ram when a whisper will do. He knows the foundation is strong, so he seeks to crumble it from within. He turns brother against brother, not with armies, but with grievances. He turns children against parents, not with swords, but with ideas that sound like freedom, but are chains. "What do we do?" I asked, desperation welling up inside me. "How do we fight this?" His presence enveloped me. The love I felt was so powerful, so absolute, it was almost painful. You do not fight smoke with a fist. You fight it with light. You do not fight a lie with a louder lie. You fight it with a quiet truth. The cracks are mended from the inside out. They are mended at the dinner table. They are mended in a quiet prayer. They are mended when a neighbor who voted differently from you needs a helping hand, and you offer it without asking questions. He showed me a vision of a single man on his knees, praying for his family, and from his prayer, a tiny speck of light appeared, pushing back the smoke. He showed me two women who disagreed about everything, but they were serving food together at a homeless shelter. Their shared work created a light that mended a tiny crack in the foundation. It was small, it was slow, but it was real. Your work is not to rebuild the whole house, Ethan. Your work is to mend the crack that is in front of you. Start with your own heart, then your own home, then your own street. That is all I ask. I understood. It wasn't about winning a big national fight. It was about winning a million small, personal ones. I looked at him, at this being of perfect light and love, and I never wanted to leave. All the pain, all the struggle of life on earth, it felt so distant, so meaningless compared to this. The peace here was more real than anything I had ever known. I want to stay, I whispered. Please, let me stay here with you. I'm tired. He smiled. It wasn't a smile with his mouth, but with his whole being. The light around him grew warmer, more brilliant. Your work building houses on earth is done, he said, but your work building my kingdom has just begun. They are thirsty, Ethan. They are drinking poison because no one has shown them where the living water is. You must go back. You must tell them about the two rivers. The thought of leaving him, of leaving this place, was the worst pain I could imagine. It was a physical tearing in my soul. I don't know if I can, I cried. I'm not strong enough. I'm just a contractor. He moved closer, and for a moment I felt as if his light passed right through me, healing something I didn't even know was broken. I will be with you, his voice promised. You will not be alone. Now go, and love them. The last thing I remember is that feeling of overwhelming, unconditional love, and then a violent, brutal shock. It felt like I was hit by lightning. A searing, white-hot pain exploded in my chest. I gasped, a huge, ragged breath that burned my lungs. My eyes flew open. The light was blinding. It wasn't the soft, living light of heaven. It was the harsh, fluorescent light of a hospital room. A man's face was hovering over me. A paramedic. My living room was filled with them. I was on the floor, wires taped to my chest. The world came rushing back. The smell of antiseptic, the urgent voices, the weight of my own body. I was back, and I wept. I wept uncontrollably. Not from the pain in my chest, but from the pain in my soul. I had just left home. Later, in the hospital, the doctor explained it to Jenna and me. Massive cardiac arrest. My heart had stopped. The paramedics worked on me for several minutes in the house before they got a rhythm back. He said I was clinically dead for 11 minutes. By all accounts, I shouldn't have made it. And if I did, I would likely have severe brain damage. But I didn't. 2 days later, I was sitting up in my hospital bed, telling a stunned cardiologist about the two rivers. He just nodded and wrote things down on his chart. I don't think he believed me, but it doesn't matter. I know what I saw. I'm telling you all this because Jesus told me to. He didn't show me who the next president will be, or if the stock market will crash. He didn't care about any of that. He cared about the condition of our hearts. He showed me that the real war isn't between left and right. It's between pride and humility. It's between the loud, muddy river of anger and the quiet, clear river of God's love. And every day, we choose which river we drink from. When we post that angry comment online, when we refuse to forgive a family member, when we look at our neighbor with suspicion instead of compassion, we are drinking the poison. But when we choose to pray instead of argue, when we choose to serve instead of insult, when we choose humility, we find the living water. So I'm asking you, what river are you drinking from? What cracks in the foundation, in your own life, is God asking you to mend? It's not about changing the whole world at once. It's about letting God change you, and then letting that change spill over to the people around you. Heaven is real. Jesus is alive, and he hasn't given up on any of us. He is lovingly, patiently waiting for us to get on our knees and take a drink from the river of life. Please, don't wait.